welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name is Kira, and today we're going to be doing my kind of January setup. So we're going to be going over all of my wonderful TBR picks for January 2025 and also setting up my reading journal spreads for the month. So grab a coffee or a treat or a tea and let's get started. So for the year of 2025, I have a reading goal of reading 125 books. I think I'm going to end up with around 86 books read in 2024, so it's a little bit ambitious, but I do want to read a lot more. I'm going to be posting a video soon on kind of my reading goals and my plan just in general for 2025, but basically it's just going to kind of be my slower year. I really just want to work on the hobbies that I have, including a lot of reading. So I'm hoping to just do a lot more of that instead of kind of all this other craziness that I've had going on in the last year. And one of my biggest goals is to read a lot of my physical TBR. I have a lot of them. I'm also going to be doing a video probably next week on all of the books I have on my physical TBR, going through every single title. So if you like those sort of things, it's going to be crazy. I'm going to be filming it in the next few days. I'm a little intimidated by it, but I have a lot of really great books. So this stack is just a lot of books that I have on my shelves that I've been wanting to read for a very long time. We're going to go over these, and then I'm going to get into setting up my reading journal spreads for January. And sorry about my voice, I have been sick for a straight month, so I sound a little nasally in some of my last videos. I can't get rid of it. So the first book that I want to read is A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. This was on my 10 books to read at kind of like the end of the last year, and I just never got to it. I really wanted to read it. I think this is more middle grade, but it's about a baker who has a familiar in kind of this magical city, and her familiar is a sourdough starter, which I think is great. One of my big things this year is I want to learn how to make bread because I'm like a huge bread lover. So this is right up my alley, and I really wanted to read it for a long time, and I've heard it's perfect for winter, so definitely going on my list. Another book that's been on my list for a while and I've been trying to read the last few months, I just haven't ever gotten to it, is Can't Spell Treason Without T by Rebecca Thorne. I got this recently and I've heard such wonderful things about it. So this book follows our two main characters that open a bookshop that serves tea. One's a mage, one's a former like bodyguard assassin. And there's just like a lot of like mayhem, mishaps. The queen is kind of mad that her bodyguard left. So I haven't avoided spoilers like nobody's business for this one. But I've heard it's wonderful and cute and cozy, and just the magical element's going to be fun for me. I kind of have quite a lot of that this month. Apparently I'm just in the mood for it. And the next book that I have also has magical elements is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. So this was popular a while ago, it kind of went crazy, and there's some other books afterwards that I would be curious to read. I don't have them. I have been really trying to only get the first book in a series, so I know I like it before I put more on my shelves. Our main character that's writing a book about fairies, and she lives in a small town, and I've heard that it is very kind of wintry. I've heard the relationship's very interesting. Again, I've avoided spoilers, and when a book gets overhyped, I just get turned off from it for a while, so I think I feel ready to read it now. But hopefully it does open me up to the rest of the series, because I think there's a third one coming out soon. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the last book in kind of my cozy fantasy books is The House Witch. I never know how to pronounce the name. Delamok. And this is also a series. I have wanted to read this for the longest time, and my little sister was so nice to buy me this book for my birthday. It's a bit of a chunker, but I absolutely wanted to read it it's been on my priority list, so I'm definitely going to read this next month. It follows our main character Finley, who gets a job in the kitchen of the king and queen, and it turns out he's a house witch. He has a familiar, and he kind of starts meddling in imperial affairs. So I like the whole court element to it, but I've told that it's just kind of funny and cozy and really wonderful. Definitely a high priority for January, kind of in between my thriller horror books. And the next book that I want to read, it's cozy, but it's cozy mystery, and it's a Joanna Fluke book. I have actually never read any of her books, but she has a lot of them, and they all have a play on like food, which I absolutely adore. I love cozy mysteries because they have recipes in them, and I end up like baking them. So I'm going to do a couple of vlogs that where I'm baking and just cozy things in January, because that's just the mood I'm in. And I think I might bake some things from these books. But this one is a chocolate chip cookie murder, a Hannah Swenson mystery, and I believe this is the first in the series. So this is a very large series that I could dive into, and they're readily available at my library if I feel like I really want to read some of these next year. I'm sure I will. As much as I'm trying to read a lot of my physical TBR, occasionally I just will mentally want something new, and I am really going to prioritize my library for that. So the next book I have on my physical TBR is one of my 12 books from 12 friends. I'm going to try to post a video about that, probably on TikTok, but also on YouTube Shorts, just because it's kind of a shorter video. But I asked some friends and family to give me a recommendation, 12 books, so I'm going to be reading one a month. And I've just decided I want a sci-fi book, and so I'm going to pick my dad's read. And he did Duel in the Dark by Jay Allen. It is also a big series, so I might just kind of start a new thing next year. But he likes military science fiction. I do not know anything about this. I just put it on my list, so I'm just going to dive into it next month. So I've been on a bit of a sci-fi kick recently, mostly because I've been reading the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. I am also doing a video on all the books that I read in 2024. So if you're interested in that, I will have that coming out soon. I have a lot of videos kind of in the pipeline right now. But I'm obsessed with this series so much. I love the Murderbot. He's just amazing and super sarcastic and hilarious and just wonderful, and there's just something about this series that just made me kind of blow through it. So I'm currently reading book number 5, which is Network Effect, and I should be done with that by the end of December. And I plan on reading Fugitive Telemetry, which is book 6, and I have it on hold at my library, and I'm like one person away from that, so I should probably get to that during January. If not, then probably February, but that is on my list as well. So going into my next book, which has also been on my list for a while, and it was on one of the lists that I wanted to read before the end of 2024. December got crazy and I didn't get to it, but it is The Lost Queen by Signe Pike. This is a series, but I think it's only a duology. I might be wrong, I'll have to look. But I've been for some reason on a bit of a kind of King Arthur kick, and I've been watching a lot of like the movies and shows about them, but this one follows Langareth, so it is a female main character, and I think King Arthur or Merlin might be on kind of the periphery, but it is told more from less the medieval story of King Arthur, but more just kind of like the Celtic druid. They follow the old ways, and she has her brother, and she becomes a bit of a kind of like a warrior queen. And I have just heard amazing things about this series, and I really never hear about it on social media of any form. So I'm hoping I love this series. I've just had it talked up quite a few times from people that I really like trust their recommendations from. So definitely going to read this. I already have the second book, so I might be reading the second book in February. But I'm trying to get into more of my fantasy books in 2025. So first one. And my next book is my jar pick. Last year in probably July, I wrapped 12 of the books that have been on my TBR for the longest, and I read 0 of them. I'm giving them another shot in 2025, so I'm going to be picking one a month, and if I don't read it by the end of the month, I'm going to have to unhaul it. But they have been with me probably since high school, and I just haven't read it, so that might be a sign that I'm not interested. But whenever I read the synopsis, I still want to read it. So we're gonna pick one, and that'll be on my TBR for the month. Our number this month is 8. I don't know if you can see it, but it's gonna focus. It's not gonna focus. 8. So here's 8. All right, so here's number 8. and it's a small kind of paperback. I had a few of them that I just kind of bought on a whim, and I just can't unhaul them for some reason. Okay, kind of fits this month. So this book is Covenant by John Everson. This one follows a Maine town that has a bunch of accidents that happen near these cliffs. And we have a reporter that's investigating it, and they kind of delve into the past of the town, secretive. This was in a supernatural area, so love that. Love kind of a mysterious past of the town. So curious to see what it is. It's not very big, probably shouldn't take me too long, but we're gonna just try it out. And so I still have 4 more books. So the next books are my horror thrillers, so I guess that the last one kind of fits. But the first book I'm going to read is Reliquary by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. In my 25 books in 2025, I put the 12th or 13th book of this series. I love the Pendergast series, and this is the second book. So I did read Relic back in October or September. Loved it. I love the entire series, so I'm going back from the beginning and starting over. So this is the second book. I just love the series. I can't recommend it enough to people. If you want to get started on adventure, supernatural, science thrillers, that's one of them. And the next book that I'm planning on reading, which I don't have, but it has been on hold for a very long time at my library, and I'm finally going to get it this month, is Sandstorm by James Rowlands, which is book number 1 in the Sigma Force series, which is also on my 25 books to read in 2025. I have a lot of them, but for some reason Sandstorm has been very hard for me to find. I've read some in the series, but not this one. So also know nothing about it, but it is adventure, science thriller, right up my alley. I've loved every other James Rowlands books that I've read, and I've gotten my dad obsessed with them. So I'm sure I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it. So these next 2 books I have wanted to read for a long time as well, and I hope I get to them in January. We will see. My list is extremely ambitious for January. I'm fully aware of that. But the first one is Dark Matter by Michelle Paver. So I recently read another novel by her called Thin Air in, I think, early December, and it was about mountaineering, which I also love. She definitely did her research when it came to mountaineering, but the isolation and the environment really added to it, so I think this is going to be really great. All right, I'm losing my voice, so I'm glad we're kind of nearing the end. The next book I want to read is One by One by Ruth Ware. I had a bunch of family come in this month, and I had started this a couple of days before, and by the end of the days I just wanted to pass out. So I actually am liking this one. It's about a company retreat that goes up into the mountains around Christmas, and eventually they get snowed in by an avalanche, and some people start going missing or showing up kind of unalived. And I have never read a Ruth Ware book. A lot of people that I follow absolutely adore her writing, so I think this is a good book to start with. People really like this one, and if I like this, I will definitely be checking out some of her other books. And very fortunately, my library, I think, has her entire kind of collection, so definitely interested in reading this one and finishing it in January. And the last book on my list, I don't know if I will be done with in December. I have had The Abominable by Dan Simmons on my list in my Libby app for a very long time, and I finally got it this month right when I was busiest. So I'm attempting to read it, but I only have, right now I'm filming this, I only have 3 or 4 days left of December. And it's a chunker. It's a big book, so I probably will be finishing that in January. It is a mountaineering book as well, and I've heard it's wonderful. Same with The Terror, which I really want to read probably in February. But those are the books that I want to read. I think all told that might have been 14 books. I will put it on the screen if it's different. That's a lot of books in 1 month, but January tends to be when I read a lot of books, just because I'm taking a break and doing nothing else but reading, and we tend to be snowed in anyway, so it works out. So those are all the books that I have for January, and now let's move into setting up my reading journal spreads. Really just doing kind of a cover page, TBR, and my first kind of writing a little bit of a description of the books. I probably will do a voiceover if my voice comes back, because I'm losing it right now. So please stay and enjoy if you like that sort of thing. And I also have a full reading journal set up if you are curious about that one as well.
So for January, I decided I wanted to keep my theme pretty simple. Since I spent a lot of December setting up my reading journal, I'd used up a lot of creativity, so I just wanted to keep it simple and warm. So I chose a lot of really warm tones, kind of a blush pink, tans. I have all of these washi tapes that I got in a set from Amazon, and depending on how many books I read this month, I'll use them each page. I'll show you what I mean later. And I'm using some of the same colors that I used in my setup, the blush color, the tan. I just want to make this month's theme warm and cozy. January is always the month that I try to take to recover and kind of set myself up for the new year, do a lot of my hobbies, and that's a big goal of mine this year. So I'm keeping the whole palette warm. I did start another theme, and I tried to do this in watercolor, but my little one came and he tried to help me, and he kind of put his whole fingers across the page. So I just glued it down, and I quickly sketched up a teapot and a coffee cup, which I did use in my kind of journal setup, but it just fits this month. I am just being cozy and relaxing inside, doing all of my just cozy things. And honestly, I ended up liking it better. I just like the way the markers came out and all of the little designs I do. I do end up using my gel gold pen just to make it a little more special. In this setup, I wanted it really soft, so I tried to avoid using too much black, but I did go in a couple of areas and use my 02 size Pigma Micron, initially just kind of outlining the teapot and the coffee cup a little bit and kind of detailing the steam. And I decided I wanted to warm it up with my craft paper again. I used that in my setup as well. And here I went in and tried to put some gold stars and stuff, and I absolutely did not like it. It was very frustrating to me. So I start to do this title, don't like it, and I kind of just pivot and do something else. So here you see me just using craft paper to cover it up. I thought about doing some white pen, but I just wanted a little something to balance out the craft paper on the bottom, and I think it ends up working out. I don't cover all of the gold stars, but I don't mind the ones that are left showing. This year, I'm trying not to be as hung up on kind of doing things perfect, because when I do that, I have a tendency to just get frustrated and just not do it at all. So it's just kind of a progress over perfection sort of thing. And honestly, I think it was just like a happy mistake because I really like the way all of this came out. And back to my washi tape. I didn't struggle nearly as much as I did. If you watched my initial journal setup for 2025, I had washi tape struggles, but I did just add a couple of extra and it seemed to work out. And then I just added January in a really simple uppercase font right underneath it in my gold gel pen. And again, I think it really turned out pretty. Here's a little close-up. I tried to show the gold. And on the second page, I wanted to write my TBR list. So I just did a little title TBR with the craft paper to balance out the craft paper on the other side. Since there's so much going on the right side and there's going to be all of these titles, I just wanted to keep it a little simple over here. So I just did a little kind of dotty gold border, and you saw a little hand show come in. He wanted to give me a birdhouse to make up for putting paint on my other spreads, so that's in the rest of the video. And down in the corner, I just did a little calendar for the month. It's just one square for each day, and I was just going to color in the days that I finished a book. I didn't want anything too big to track it, and I don't really care if I finish like multiple in a day if I'm reading novellas, but I'm just going to fill it in and kind of see how frequently I finish a book. So I just went in with my darker pink Tombow. It's 772 if anyone's wondering. I'll try to list it in the description. And I'm just filling in the titles with check boxes. I think I ended up with 14 books this month. We will see if I finish that. So I filled in some and I forgot the rest, so I will go back and fill them in later. So I'm going to my next pages, which will just be my reviews. I don't want anything too big, and so I'm just going to do a similar layout in each with some of those different washi tapes, but each page holds 4 different reviews, so I don't know how many pages I will make. But I think I just went down 11 spaces. I'm in the B5 size. And I'm drawing a box for the picture I will print out of the cover, just using some like matte sticker paper or just plain printer paper, just depending. And in the corners here, I drew also with my gold pen a square so I can put my star rating. And I just went in with a Crayola super tip. Again, I just kind of avoiding the black on these pages. And I wrote title, author, format, and then just a simple review. And underneath the rating box, I'm just going to track the page numbers so I can add it to my yearly stats at the end of the month. And that was it for these spreads. I will do some end of the month spreads, but I will do that in kind of my January wrap up. So
And there is my January setup. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe you found some books that you also want to add to your TBR. Let me know if you've read any of these books or what you're planning on reading. I always love to see what people are reading, especially this time of year if you're a seasonal reader or just what you think are interesting right now. And if you liked this video, I have a lot coming down. I'm trying to post 2 times a week. Probably this week I will be posting 3 times a week. I have a lot of videos that I wanted to do. Please like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell notification. I would love to have you all back. And I hope you all have a really wonderful week and an amazing new year. Bye!